Hello friends, neighbors, John your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome to another Nook. Welcome to a Sample Sunday. Today I have a sample pack that was sent to me by a distributor, so has a vested interest in this whiskey. Just get that out of the way. But I appreciate people in the industry when they send me some whiskey. Reviews and thoughts are always my own, but this was a pretty cool kit. It's for Buzzard's Roost, and then inside here, I don't want to drop them, there are 6 sample bottles. So I looked at the 6 and Robert suggested an order. I think what I'm going to do is look at Buzzard's Roost. I'm going to look at their toasted oak bourbon. Then I thought their #1 Char bourbon, and then their #1 Char rye. Because I thought I'd do this over at least a couple of weeks. So I'll do 3 today and 3 another day. So if you have any Buzzard's Roost, or just some bourbon, why don't you pour a little when we get back? I'll have found those in this kit and poured them out, and we'll just nose and taste, and it'll just be what I get. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said, we're going to talk 3 releases from Buzzard's Roost. I've got their toasted oak bourbon, their #1 Char bourbon, and their #1 Char rye. I can share a little bit of the story as it was shared to me from Robert, which is pretty cool. Maybe I'll share that after the whiskey, but just heads up. What this group does is they do buy MGP, but then they re-age it in custom barrels that they have worked with a local independent barreling company or stave company to make these smaller 53-gallon barrels, and then they age it. I think they toast all of those small barrels, and then some that they char to #1. I think that's how I read it. So they're definitely, selecting whiskeys and then aging them in different barrel types and then blending them. I think Jason Browner is the owner or master blender behind this. And just from what I've read, has a real nose for whiskey, of course. Nose palate. What I mean is has this chops, the ability to pick good whiskey. So certainly knows what they're doing. Maybe I'll share more of the story later and why they have this name. What a beautiful tasting kit. But let's get into the whiskey. So this first one is their toasted bourbon, and all of them, except for if it's a barrel proof, are released at 52.5% or 105 proof. And this one is a mix, I think, of 4 or 5-year-old bourbons. One of them is a 36% rye, and the other one is a 20-some percent, 21%. I'll put the details down below. But let's try toasted bourbon. I'm interested to see on the nose. Nice, oaky, slightly spicy, a little bit sweet. Doesn't lead with fruit, maybe leads more with oaks and spices for me, and then some nice vanillas going on. Yeah, but it's got a sweetness, like a candied note, a candied sweetness that's kind of got me playing around in there. So if we're to pull in a fruit, it'd be more like a candied apple. All right, let's try it on the palate. Cheers. That was a good full present first sip. It had, again, more of those kind of oak, sweet oak though, like a sweet toasted oak, and a little bit of nut husk in there, just a little bit, not quite all the way to almond, but something going on in there, and then more of that nice, a little bit spicy, not overwhelmingly so, but kind of baking spice, some cinnamons, that kind of thing playing around. Again, sweet brown sugar, but not sweet like cherry or that kind of thing. One more sip. Full flavored, nice bourbon. A little bit more on the dry, spicy, the higher rye coming out. But there is some nuts in there, some other things going on with the baking spices that makes it good all the way through to a nice balanced oaky finish. I don't want to say it's over oak by any means. It's younger, so it's just got some nice fresh oak. Moving on to the second sample here. I hope I have poured, yep, the Char #1 bourbon. So instead of a mix of mash bills, this one is just that higher rye. I think 59 corn, 36 rye, 5% barley probably. And it's a 4-year-old, again, that 52.5% or 105 proof, and rested, finished in that smaller 53-gallon custom barrel from that stave company. So in comparison, this is darker spicing. This now is quite sweeter, not quite honeyed, but getting closer to that. This is a little more broody, a little darker spice, and maybe now I'm getting a little more fruits, like maybe some dark cherry in there. Yeah, a little more like that. Try it on the palate. #1 Char bourbon from Buzzard's Roost. Palate for me follows that nose. Thicker, darker, molasses. A little burnt cinnamon. It's not burnt in a bad way, but that cooked down, baked, darker cinnamon, not that bright red hot cinnamon candy, but now we're, yeah, there's for me, it is a brooding is the wrong word, but it is a darker, I would tend to sip this more because I like this drier, spicier, darker oak than this, which is very good, but this is lighter, sprightlier, and more a little bit more nut in there, a little more like almost almond, honeyed, lighter oaked. I like them both. Right now, I'm liking I'm gonna say the broody nature of the #1 Char. Okay, last sample that I have up here is the #1 charred rye. So again, 95.5 from MGP that's brought over to Bart's and then aged in a custom 53-gallon barrel. I think this one is toasted and then charred to #1. And this one, because it's a rye, actually connects to the story. So I'll just tell it a little bit as it was related to me. I've never met Jason Browner, but as I understand it, Jason is the proprietor of the Bourbon Bistro on the Bourbon Trail. One day, I hope I can go there. And apparently had made comment to this independent barrel, independent stave making company that not a big rye guy, but if they could make a barrel that would finish a rye in a way that he would like it, he'd make a distilling company. Something like that. I'm sure I have all the details wrong. But at least that's how it was told to me. And they came back, treated him, I suppose, to some rye that was aged in some of the barrels that they tried. And he said, okay, I guess I got to make a distillery. I understand they weren't able to get the distillery, but they got some land on Buzzard Roost Road or something like that and decided to keep the name, even though right now they're not distilling their own liquid. So this Buzzard's Roost has that cool story about all of these people that clearly know whiskey better than I. And then he kind of put his money where his mouth was. Okay, I got to get this going. So that's how it's told to me. So I'm interested to taste this rye to see how it has reacted with that custom made smaller barrel. On the nose. Well, I like rye, and that's a nice rye nose. It's a little prickly and spicy, but actually I'm getting a juicy, actually almost more fruit than either of these two. The second one had some more than the first. It's got some herbal nature though for me. It's got a little bit of that fresh grass, lemongrass. Yeah, it's I think this one's young, about 3 years or so, which is fine for me in a rye. But it definitely on the nose. I heard this was a rye for bourbon drinkers. And maybe the palate will go there, but right now the nose is certainly saying rye. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. Interesting. I think I am getting some of that charred oak, almost a bit of nuttiness again, almost a bit of chocolate in with a fuller rye now. So we've got more spicing. It's even more drying on the early finish. And there isn't near the same kind of grass conversation that I was getting on the nose. I could see how this does play a little more toward that bourbon palate. Looking for some sweetness, better vanillas, that roundness you get with corn, and I can see that. But I can also say, for me, this is still a rye. This still has that, that perkiness on the nose, a spice hug down in the palate. And I like it. A little more candied though, a little more sweetened, a little more rounded, a little more oaked than a lot of ryes come at us. And the longer finish, I could even get back into some dark cherries. These three have been very good. Of these three right now, first thoughts, I just poured them out right here in front of you guys. I'm tempted to like the rye, but I am someone who really likes rye. Or the number one Char bourbon. This toasted would have a broad appeal. It's sweeter. It's more like that, Buffalo Trace type, like kind of a sweeter bourbon. Whereas here we're getting into a little bit drier, spicier, but more oak is in the conversation for me. And then this rye is actually the longer finish, very tasty. Of the three, this rye has already captured my interest. Look, thanks for joining me here, and I've tried to be as open as I can. These were given to me, so obviously take all of my thoughts with a grain of salt because I am predisposed to like whiskey that someone gives me. Still, I hope to always be honest with you guys, and if I don't like a whiskey that much, I will let you know. These are good sipping whiskeys. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys had a great Sunday, and have a great weekend.